Hello, friends. Welcome to the Truth to You Daily podcast with Brother Scott. We are thrilled that you have taken time out of your day to explore with us God's timeless truth. Regardless of who we are, we all need the light of God's Word to illuminate our path for this day. And now, here's our youth pastor, Brother Scott.
Hello, welcome back to the podcast. It's Thursday, it's October the 5th, and how are you doing today? Are you feeling a little bit groggy? Do you feel like, boy, I feel every bit of the weight of Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and now Thursday, here we are. But listen, take heart, because tomorrow is Friday, and Friday means game day for some of you, and Friday means the weekend is coming, and if you're around here, that means men's prayer breakfast, fellas. If you're listening, and ladies, that means you get to sleep in. So how awesome is that, right? Great things coming. Glad you're here today. Let's go ahead and launch our new memory verse, and before I do, want to remind everyone, we've got this next Wednesday night, this next teen time on Wednesday in group time. We are going to see which team can say the most memory verses. So that's the challenge, and we're going to see who comes out on top. I'll keep reminding you of that. Here's the verse you're going to be committing to memory and hopefully saying in group time. Proverbs 22 and verse 3, a prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. Proverbs 22 and verse 3. Okay, we're in Proverbs 22. That's where we are, but we're looking at a different verse other than the one we just talked about there for our memory work. But Proverbs 22 and verse 28, the Bible says this, remove not the ancient landmark which thy fathers have set. Now, I'm going to be very honest with you. I've heard this verse preached a lot of different ways. And most of the time when I hear it referenced, it is in reference to principles that have been established by older generations that ought not be pulled up, so to speak, by the younger generation. And you know what? That's a biblical principle. But I don't believe that's what this is talking about here. In fact, you'll see this as we take a closer look at some of these words. But let's just zoom out for a second. Now, one of the themes of the book of Proverbs is the theme of integrity. And integrity is doing the right thing when no one else is watching. Simple definition, right? But this verse illustrates another example of the kind of integrity that we should have. Specifically, in regards to this verse, I remember hearing a missionary describe a common practice that would often occur among the local people in the area that he was ministering. And what would often happen is neighbors, people whose properties connected with each other, would often try to claim more land than was actually theirs. All right, so think about this. They would have these markers, right? These boundary line markers. A lot of times when there's official work that's being done, official will come out and stake the ground where your property line begins and where your neighbors end and where's your begins and where's it comes together and all that good stuff. Well, in this country, they had specific markers for where these lines were drawn. But the common practice was people would secretly try to move those boundary lines in connection with that property line to claim more land for themselves than was actually, their own possession. So, of course, the adverse effect would result in their neighbors having less land and them having more land. Can you imagine, seeing a marker, that's in one corner of your property, and then the next week you go out to do some work in the yard, and the stake seems like it's moved your way just a little bit, and now maybe your neighbor has moved their stuff a little bit. You can see that there was once some grass, a bare spot where that shed was. Now that shed has moved closer to your property line, and in fact, in your yard now because they've moved it. Hard for us to wrap our minds around that because we don't live in a culture where that's common practice. But this was 100% what was happening in Proverbs 22 and verse 28 that Solomon's talking about here. He's saying, listen, those landmarks, those old markers that were placed down by officials or family of long ago that specified this is my land and separates it from your land. Hey, we ought not seek to deceitfully take advantage of moving those things. So what is here the overall thought, right? We're going back to integrity. This is just another example of that. And that is, whether someone can get away with this type of behavior or not doesn't make it right. And boy, isn't that so often the determining factor? Well, they don't have to know. Or, hey, they will never know. Isn't that kind of how we operate? Or at least sometimes the world operates. Maybe someone encourages you to do something, and tells you, look, it's, your parents don't have to know about this. You just don't bring it up. If they bring it up, just kind of stay quiet. Hey, try to get away with. Listen, that is anti-God behavior. That is not forthcoming, and it's certainly not could not be categorized as something of integrity. So let's see this example. Let's look back to our lives, and let's make sure that we're not doing something that would fall in the lines of removing the landmarks which have been set for our own personal gain and for the detriment of others. No one will know. That's the title of that devotional thought. But of course, we know that's not the case because there's one person who knows, and that is God. He sees all, he knows all, and really our thought should not be, well, what do they think about it? It's thought of, what does God think about this? Before we go, I want to mention the teenager that we are praying for, and we're praying for Chris V. So take some time and pray for him. Ask that the Lord would help him in his studies and his responsibilities, that Lord would keep him healthy. So much this time of year, we get some colds and flus and that stuff going around. I want to pray for God's protection on Chris today. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll be back again tomorrow. Take care.